From the snowy mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show, including Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by donating to Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We're heading way southwest tonight as Susan Hansen has had a career in school teaching and grief counseling. She has also been involved in UFO research and sighting investigations for over 40 years. She saw her first UFO at the ripe young age of 8, and in the year 2000, she founded the UFOCUS New Zealand Research Group, a nationwide organization. She has interviewed and communicated with thousands of people who have had sightings, close encounters, and metaphysical paranormal experiences. Susan lectures nationally and internationally at meetings, conferences, and seminars around the world about New Zealand UFO sightings and her own alien contact encounters and experiences. Oh, we are in for a beauty this Friday night, early Saturday morning, or Saturday afternoon, where Susan is in New Zealand. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. Susan Hansen, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. How are you?
Thank you very much, Dave. I'm fine here in New Zealand on this beautiful 5 o'clock sunny afternoon, late summer, early autumn.
Oh, what's that like? I still have over 1.5 feet of snow in my backyard. Oh, I'm so jealous.
Pretty hot
so
here.
Jealous. Well, you know what? I thank you for taking time. You're all the way in the future. I got to know. Since you're in the future, am I okay? Am I alive tomorrow?
Yes. Yeah, okay. You're going to survive. You're going to be there.
Excellent. This is what I need to know. I got one more day on this planet, people. Susan's called it right off the bat. I'm excited about that. Susan, 8 years old, you had your first UFO sighting. Do you remember it?
I do, very clearly. Yes, it's engraved in my mind, Dave. Yes. Do you want me to tell you about it?
Yes, I would love for you to do so.
Okay, well, one Friday night, my father came running in from outside about 8:30 at night and said, come out quickly onto the concrete terrace and look at what's up in the sky. So the family rushed out the door, and it was winter, so it was cold. And in the sky, some maybe 20 kilometres away, I would say now as an adult, hanging over a series of hills near where we lived called the Bombay Hills, was this, a bar is the only way I can describe it, a flaring, flaming, brilliant, long, rectangular bar of orange light. It hung there for about an hour and a half, and my parents went and got our neighbours, and half the street was out on their front lawn watching, and we watched it sitting there. Occasionally it would flare, which was quite exciting, and then it would dim down again. We had nothing like that in New Zealand that could create a phenomenon like that in the sky, of course. Wasn't a helicopter. And at about 9:30, it began to move. That was quite exciting, watching it just heading south down central North Island of New Zealand. And the next day or the day after, it was reported in the New Zealand Herald, our national newspaper, just a very small piece down the bottom of the column on the front page. But there it was, and it had been sighted by hundreds of people down the central North Island on that night. So what it was, I don't know, but it certainly didn't appear to be anything natural or earthly. And over the years, I've had my account of this sighting on my website, and I've been contacted over the years, up until just a few months back, actually, by other people around New Zealand who saw it at that time and can describe it exactly, but from different places around the Bombay Hills. So that's good corroboration, very interesting.
So you at an early age started to believe that there was something out there. Did it start to happen very frequently because you were so young that you had this sighting, or did it take a number of years before you had something happen again?
No, I had memories throughout my childhood, some strange dreamlike memories, which, had quite an impact on me because it seemed that I was being taught things in these dreamlike states, if I can put the word dreamlike in inverted commas. But the next sighting that I had was a terrific shock. It was quite different from that 8-year-old sighting where it was wondrous and I couldn't get to sleep that night because I'd seen a flying saucer in my mind as a child, and it opened my mind up to all kinds of possibilities. But the next sighting I had was when I was 20, and that was a very different kind of sighting that happened when I was a young teacher in central North Island, southern North Island. And that was very, very different in that at that time it was quite shocking and traumatic.
Oh, what happened?
On that occasion, I was heading home from a country area. I'd been out visiting friends on a sheep station with my flatmate. And when we were heading home, which was about a 2-hour drive, I suppose, back to the small city that we lived in, we were coming down out of a series of hills and onto a long riverbed straight about 2.5 k's long. And as we came down to the bottom of the hills about to begin on that straight, we saw 2 very bright white lights up ahead in the sky over the adjacent hills. And we naturally thought they were a helicopter coming in, or what we have in New Zealand, agricultural spraying or casting aircraft that goes out and does agricultural work. We thought that might have been coming into a farm paddock for the night. We saw the lights go out and, thinking logically, we just assumed the aircraft had turned away from us, so we couldn't see its landing lights. It was late afternoon, very sunny and bright and warm, and then we saw the lights appear right next to us over the adjacent hills. So there was some panicky discussion went on between my flatmate and I as to whether this was a UFO or whether this was, in fact, a fast-moving helicopter, as he was proposing. And we're talking about, he was a scientist here and was trying to look at things logically. So a few seconds went by and the lights flicked off and appeared back down where we had originally seen them. So now we were kind of shouting at each other and arguing about what it was. There was a bit of panic going on. Are we safe? There's no one around. It's just paddocks full of sheep. And then it disappeared. So we waited a few seconds, foot on the clutch and the brake, couldn't see anything. Okay, it's all right. Whatever it is, it's gone. Let's carry on. And we'd only gone, less than 100 metres. And he said, oh, my God, whatever it is, it's coming up behind us fast. And I stuck my head out the window to try and have a look. There was this massive bright white light that was so bright it was difficult to even look at, wider than the road. Within split seconds, it was over our car. Everything seemed to be illuminated silver white. It was very difficult to even open your eyes more than a slit. It was accompanied by a really grinding metallic sound. And I turned my head to try to look at my flatmate and saw that his hands had dropped from the steering wheel. He seemed to be in a sleep state, leaning on the door jamb. And then I felt our car lift off the road with that feeling in your stomach you get when an aircraft leaves the tarmac and leaves your stomach behind for a few seconds.
Yes.
There was that kind of feeling. And then I must have passed out as he had. And I didn't remember any more until it seemed like there was a loud banging or clapping sound, and it felt as if I'd just woken up. And there was a feeling of flotation, weightlessness. It was pitch black. Then the car lights came on, the motor started up, and the tyres hit the road. And we were at the far end of that straight, and we were just about to cross a one-way bridge. There was a lot of panic going on again with the both of us. It was now dark, and neither of us could explain where that time had gone, why it was dark, and we were in a nauseated, panicking, traumatized state for the rest of the drive. we kind of lapsed into silence eventually, and couldn't agree on what it could have been or what had happened. When we got back to our flatmates confirmed that we were very late. Our tea had burnt in the oven, and neither of us had any explanation as to what had happened to us.
That is incredible. And to this day, you're looking for that answer.
Well, yes and no. I believe I have that answer now, but I'm a long way along the track, further than I was then as a 20-year-old. And I think that I understand what has been taking place with me and many, many other people over many decades.
So what do you think happened to you?
Well, I began to have some flashbacks, which is very, very common with abductees and experiencers. I call myself an experiencer because I've come to realise that I've been a part of this of my own free will. And I think that the flashbacks I had really set me on a path of searching. So this was a real traumatizing incident, that the kind of thing that lurches you headlong into exploration and curiosity. Or the other flip side of the coin is that you fall by the wayside, you don't want to know, you close yourself off from it, and you live in some fear. But because I'd had this 8-year-old experience in my consciousness, I wanted to explore it. I wanted to find out what had happened. And as time went by over the next few years following that incident, I had other similar incidents. By then I'd met my future first husband and was married, and we'd moved to quite a remote area to teach. And more incidents that were similar happened to me, and that was really the start of me interviewing people who I met in the community who were talking about something similar, or who had seen lights on that particular night. And we're talking about fishermen and country people, farmers, truck drivers, people who have no reason to embellish a story or claim something that they haven't seen in a small community.
Well, we're going to learn more about your abduction here, but I mean, this sounds like right out of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, being followed and being taken. And quite similarly, in my area where I live in remote British Columbia, back in 1988, a lady named Miriam Delgado had the exact same thing happen to her, where they were followed for about 120, 130 kilometers by an orb of light. And finally, about a mile out of my town, up on a Climbingham hillside on the highway, they were pulled over by the UFO.
Yeah, this is a very common kind of experience that abductees and experiencers have. I don't call my experiences abductions because I now understand that I'm part of something that I willingly became a part of. And I've never, ever had negative experiences in terms of what I recall of being on a craft, which I began to recall over the next 15 years following this incident. But at the time, because it was a real catalyst experience, it was traumatizing. But as I said, that really catapulted me into research and finding out what other people were experiencing and what else was happening in New Zealand, and then eventually in the world, because this was in 1975 and there was very little literature in New Zealand about the UFO subject. It hadn't started dripping into New Zealand at that stage, so it was completely untrialed, untested ground, and for quite some time I did feel quite alone with it.
Now, we have a lady in one of our chat rooms, Renee, who is a resident of New Zealand as well, and she tunes in quite frequently and is in our chat rooms participating. And she has always stated, because she's a transplant from the United States, and she is always saying that she is amazed at how haunted and how spiritual and how many UFO sightings are on the island of New Zealand. It's an incredible amount, and it's a very spiritual country, is it not?
Yes, I would agree with that. I mean, I think we have quite a unique little culture down here with Māori culture, and the way many New Zealanders embrace that culture and make it a part of their life. But also we do have this amazing rich record of numerous UFO sightings. And in part, I think that's because some of the early veteran UFO researchers in New Zealand were ex-Air Force, and they were actually scientists, and pilots, and they have made very meticulous records of sightings that were occurring right back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, etc., leading into the time that I began work in 75. So I have a massive archive that has been given to me by some of these researchers, and it really is extraordinary. It goes back to the airship sightings of 1908, 1909, but one of my colleagues has actually found reference to a sighting back in like 1898 or something like that. I can't remember the exact date, which certainly sounds like a report of a UFO sighting over a lake. So we've had the Kaikoura lights occur here, which Bruce Maccabee, who's a physicist in the States and has investigated a lot of sightings, still believes to be in the top 10 sightings worldwide, because it was, film footage, visual. It was on radar. It was seen by numerous members of the public and pilots as well.
My goodness. We're going to have a fun time tonight as we got about 6 minutes here before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Suzy Hansen is our guest tonight from all the way in New Zealand. She's been studying UFOs for 40 years. Susan, is there, as we kind of do the small talk here in the first half hour, is there a UFO sighting that has really stuck out for you in your 40-year history of investigating this phenomena?
Yes. Well, there's some of the historic sightings that stand out, like the Moreland sighting and the Kaikoura lights. But since 75, since I have been documenting and researching, I think a sighting that occurred very close by to where I live is a standout one, where 3 hunters and a teenage boy who was the son of one of the hunters were followed for 2.5 k's by a UFO at ground level behind some trees. And it came right up to within meters of them. They had an extraordinary experience. It's a really great story, and 2 of them had a close-up encounter with an entity that came out of it as they were trying to make their way to their vehicle on farmland. This was in quite a remote area, and it's a fantastic story which I speak about in some of my speeches. That certainly is a standout one.
So with that experience, what do you look for in the experiences or the sightings that you check out and report on? What are you looking for?
Well, I'm looking for, first of all, detail, but detail, not everyone can give a lot of detail. Sometimes people are quite surprised by what they see, and they're so surprised they're not really taking in a lot of data or detail or description. But I think when you sit face to face with a person and you hear them recount their story, there's that ring of truth. There's that reality in that they are reacting in ways one would expect someone who's had an experience that may have felt life-threatening, that may have been wondrous to them, or whatever. You are listening to them recount it and the way that they recount it. But also you're looking for those details that run through many classic sightings, and they seem to follow a pattern often, not always. And you're looking for those kinds of indicators as well. And you're looking at how it has changed their worldview, because if it's not changing their worldview at all, then I'm a little dubious about the sighting. Most people, it really changes the way they think, the way they view the world, the way they view the universe, etc., and their place in it. And sometimes it can take some time for that to happen. And at present, we are going back to some of those sighting witnesses, and we're re-interviewing to see how it has changed their worldview, if at all, in the interim. And that's quite an interesting exercise to do.
As we got about 3 minutes here before we need to go to break, at the top of the bottom of the hour here, I'm just curious, in regards to the experiences people are having there, are they as frequent and as often as we seem to picture here in North America with the experiences people are having?
I think it's pretty much on a par worldwide. I've spoken in 8 countries now, and I always get to speak to experiencers and experiencer groups and sighting investigation researchers, because I've got my feet in both of those camps. And the stories that I'm hearing, the kinds of things I'm hearing, are quite standardized. What we do notice is that there's a difference in how the critical thinking in some places, how it is recorded. Are the details recorded adequately? Is it sensationalized? Is it used to go into the media and create a stir rather than to inform people of what's happening? So we do have these differences. I think perhaps the States is probably a little bit more sensationalized in the way they present than we would do in New Zealand. We're quite matter of fact and down to earth in the way we record, document, and present. So there are these kind of cultural differences that have to be taken into account as well.
Quickly here, as we got about 90 seconds, what is the government's agenda towards UFOs? Do they talk about it? Is it secrecy, much like we see a lot here in North America?
Well, I'll give you a brief answer to that. I could give you a much longer one, but in 2010, 2011, I had been lobbying the Chief of Defence in New Zealand to release the MOD UFO files, which were released in those years. And their conclusion was that they were wiping their hands of it, and they were saying that they were either anything that you saw in the sky that was unusual was either a natural phenomenon or a misidentified aircraft. They may actually have to eat their words now that the States is releasing some information, as are other countries. But in the files, there were actually just over 92 pilot sightings, which did not appear to have been adequately investigated by the MOD. And if they were, the results of that were not in the files. So therefore, there will be intelligence files that we don't have access to as yet.
Wonderful. So basically, they're telling you it's swamp gas, much like we hear up here.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
Well, that's nice. See. That's nice. That's very nice. You know, we get that in Canada. Here in Canada, we ask about UFOs. They just turn the other way and just say, isn't it hockey season? Isn't it time to go to Tim Hortons for a donut or a coffee? Well, that's what we get up here.
That's right. I rang a police station about it, said who I was and why I was ringing about a particular sighting, and he said there was a moment's silence, and then he said, go away, and hung up. And I think that's probably reasonably good.
Nice guy. Yeah. Nice guy. Yeah. Susan, I'm going to get you to hold on here as we're going to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Susan Hansen is our guest tonight. Her website, UFOCUSNZ.org.nz. That's Z for our American listeners. On a couple of notes, but I got to stick with the Commonwealth on this one. More with Spaced Out Radio right after this.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know little brother is watching.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckard, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Need that weekend supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to remind all of you, if you want to watch the show live or check out our free archives, go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. All right, let's get to it. UFOs in New Zealand. Our guest tonight, Suzy Hansen. She has been running UFOCUSNZ.org.NZ for the last number of years, since year 2000, 20 years in. She's been studying UFOs for over 40. Suzy, welcome back.
Thank you, Dave.
You're very welcome. You are very, very welcome. And I want to ask you, right before the break, we were talking about the whole government side where, you know, you have petitioned the government. People have talked to the government about what their stance is on UFOs down in New Zealand. And basically, they have shunned you off, saying, stop wasting our time. They don't exist. Swamp gas, you know, this is great white shark mist, you know, surrounding the island. And that's just the way it is. Yet you know, and the Indigenous people know, that there's something more going on there. So how are you getting your message through?
Well, the whole idea of, you know, lobbying the Chief of Defence at the time was to actually raise public awareness of the subject in New Zealand, because we figured that they probably were not going to come clean on what they knew about the Kaikoura lights, for example, and some of the other early experiences and sightings that had happened in New Zealand by pilots, etc., farmers' wives, right across the board. There was some pretty stunning stuff earlier on, and there had been a lot of controversy during the time of the Kaikoura lights. Really, it split the country down the middle. It really divided communities, divided people in their opinion on what was happening, whether it was, you know, the lights of squid boats bouncing off clouds, as the government of the day and their cohorts in science tried to tell us. There were some fairly ludicrous examples given as to what it could have been, and that included the city lights reflecting off the breasts of flocks of mutton birds flying south. So, and for a while it was Venus, but that was quickly discounted by the astronomers themselves. So there was a lot of confusion and turmoil going on, and really what they were trying to do was shut it down and whitewash it and, you know, return to the status quo and silence everyone. But of course, the major witnesses of the Kaikoura lights were pilots, highly trained, highly experienced, had been flying those runs through the night for many years, as well as the air traffic controllers in the Wellington and Christchurch control centres who observed them on radar. And actually one of my colleagues in UFOCUS NZ who works with me is now well into his 80s, sharp as a razor, John Cordy, and he is the last remaining air traffic controller from that time who observed them on radar. So all of these people, the government of the day and their sidekicks, tried to discredit these very sincere, very professional and experienced aviators. So that didn't go down well with them or with many members of the public. A couple of books were written about the Kaikoura lights, and they are now real collector's pieces. So as we've moved further down the track, of course, we know much more about the subject, and some of the documentation has come to light about the Kaikoura lights in the files that were released. most of it is stuff that was already out there in the public arena, but there are a few little juicy bits and pieces here and there. For example, the fact that at one stage the government did form a committee to study it, but it didn't last very long. It kind of petered out, and the DSIR, which is the Department of Scientific and Industrial Research in New Zealand, pretty much whitewashed it, and so it was tossed to one side. But I think that the government of the day was trying to deal with something they had no experience with. They had no resources. They were floundering. And so they were pretty much following the lead of the Commonwealth in terms of Britain. And to this day, with the release of the files in 2010, 2011, again, they were following the lead of what the UK and Australia and possibly Canada, I think, had already done.
Right.
But
speaking of the Kaikoura Lights, we should also mention that today is the 23rd anniversary of the Phoenix Lights in Arizona.
Yes, yeah.
Are there any similarities to these major sightings?
Well, apart from the fact that, hundreds and hundreds of people saw them, including a lot of professional people in the aviation field, certainly the lights that were seen at Phoenix were different to what was seen here. But it's very sad that money talks and certain things happen that can change the course of history. And some years ago, I was approached when we were UFOCUS NZ was holding a conference in New Zealand. I was approached by one of the cameramen who had been assigned, TVNZ cameraman who'd been assigned to a particular river near Kaikoura during the time of the sightings. And he and his senior cameraman had managed to capture on 16mm film. They thought they'd captured something quite extraordinary. And that night when they returned to the TVNZ building, they found that the government had been in and had taken all the canisters of film. Everything to do with the Kaikoura Lights had been confiscated for, in inverted commas, investigation. So these guys spirited this footage away and kept it concealed for years. And in 2007, when we held this conference, this cameraman contacted me and said, I've got this footage. He said he was going to get it digitized so that I could have a copy and have a look at it. However, it turned out that what he had captured was indeed something spectacular. It was a very large white light that split into two, and both halves took off in different directions. And this footage must have, word of it must have spread immediately to the States, and it was purchased by a documentary company for quite a sum of money. So it was never seen by me or anyone else in New Zealand. And in fact, as far as I know, it's never been seen again at all. So we have these unfortunate things that happen where this could have become a very big thing and could have solved a lot of problems and shown that these were not aircraft and not natural phenomenon, but we didn't get the opportunity to do that.
Suzy Hansen is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, talking UFOs in New Zealand tonight. Suzy, when this incident occurred back in December of 1978, and it had so many witnesses, was there any sort of panic at that time from those who were unsure what was going on? What was the role of the military at that time?
The military was supporting, talking to the government and supporting them. There was very little put out to the general public except at the time placating messages. But the general consensus in New Zealand was curiosity. But as I said, once the government started pushing their wheelbarrow of their explanations, it was swinging a lot of people in that direction. And that's why I said earlier it really divided society at the time.
Wow. How was the media with that back then, and how are they now on the subject?
Right. Well, the media were quite good in respect that they were regularly reporting. I have got a massive box of newspaper clippings from that time where on a daily basis on all our national newspapers there was a feast of images and reports and descriptions of sightings and witnesses talking and countermeasures by the government to silence it or quell the curiosity. So the media was just absolutely working overtime for quite some time. And of course, it wasn't just the December sighting. There was an earlier one, the end of December. There was an earlier one around the 20th, 21st as well that was sighted in the South Island. That was the first sighting of the Kaikoura lights near the Woodburn military base, which is interesting. And then we had the major sighting, which was captured on radar and footage. So it had been around, these lights had been occurring for some weeks. And the interesting thing is that I was living in the North Island at the time in an area called Gisborne and East Coast. And that's where, at that time in the late 70s, as I said earlier, I was having these contact experiences. I was having these memories of being taken somewhere, of being paralyzed, not being able to move my body, lights all around me. So I was having these kinds of experiences in a remote area. And hundreds and hundreds of people in this Gisborne area were reporting the same, and it came to be known as the Gisborne UFO flap. This was just gaining traction in the media, particularly in Gisborne city media, when the Kaikoura lights sightings happened in the middle of it and eclipsed what was happening further north in Gisborne. So really, the 1978-79 flap in New Zealand, it was a worldwide flap. It was happening right around the world, but in New Zealand we had these particularly stunning things happening in the North and South Island, which were very well documented and very well reported in the media.
How is the media today, though, with this subject, considering what has happened over the last couple of years, more specifically in the United States, but that has affected the whole UFO phenomena worldwide?
Yes, I would say, having been in the States a number of times in recent years and having a lot of friends over there, I would say our media now, we don't have as much about UFOs, the UFO subject as the States and some other countries do. I think it's kept under wraps, maybe because of the government's stance on it and their claims that it's misidentified aircraft and natural phenomena. But the media have been very good in other respects. For example, we did, in a few years back, we did a 60 Minutes documentary with 60 Minutes New Zealand. They were very good. They said, we want to involve some experts in this. And we said, well, who will that be? And they produced various scientists' names and a few other people, some people from the Skeptic Society. And so we questioned the right for them to use the word expert because none of them had ever investigated a UFO sighting, let alone probably spoken to a witness. My colleagues at the time were aviators. I had the late Graham Opie working with me, who was an active senior air traffic controller at the time. I had John Cordy, who was a retired air traffic controller. Graham was a pilot. John was ex-Air Force, as Graham was, and we had an astronomer with us and a scientist. So we were quite a tight little team. And we said, no, we're not going to do a documentary if you're going to have skeptics and other people who have not actually investigated the subject as we have. And they said, no, we have to have that for balance. And we said, okay, we don't want to do it then. Sorry, we're not that keen to get our faces on television that we're going to be put in a position where we might just be ridiculed and made fun of. Right. So in the end, they were so desperate to get this UFO program going, they agreed that it would just be us. And it turned out to be one of the top liked programs on their network. They had over 60,000 hits on their website to view it, and it raised a lot of controversy and discussion again, so it really served its purpose to wake people up and get them re-looking at the sky and thinking about our place in this world and in this universe.
So with that, what is the reaction of people in New Zealand regarding this topic? And after this, I want to follow up with the Indigenous Maori and the tribes people from there, because obviously if they're anything like the First Nations here in North America, they have a very strong connection to what they call they call the Star People.
Yes. Sorry, what was your initial question?
Well, what is the reaction to this? The way the media is covering this from the public.
Yes, well, I think given what's happening overseas, they've softened a little bit, and also, you've got astrophysicists and astronomers and scientists coming out and saying, NASA saying, well, we're possibly not alone. There's habitable planets out there. There's just so much universal material and understanding coming forward that I think people have softened in their ridicule of the subject. They're now in New Zealand a little more curious. Certainly when I do any public speaking, it's generally very well received. I've spoken at all kinds of meetings, and even if people sit quietly through the meeting and don't put their hand up if I ask if they've had a sighting, they tend to run after me in a car park afterwards and quite desperate and keen to tell me about a sighting they've had, or their uncle or their brother or whatever. So I think that curiosity is coming back to New Zealand, and I think the media are not quite so ridiculing of the subject. They're a bit more sort of balanced and presenting it in a more credible way.
Suzy, with the Indigenous people on New Zealand, obviously they would have lots of stories, legends, folklore that goes along with the Star People amongst other gods and goddesses around the island. What is their reaction in regards to UFOs?
Well, it's normal in New Zealand that I wouldn't generally speak for the Indigenous people, but I can make certain comments. Certainly, knowing a lot of people in positions, for example, my husband is a carver, and he knows a lot of people who are carvers, Māori carvers in New Zealand, who have gone into the history of their particular tribes. And one feature that keeps coming up is a lot of the tribes have got stories that refer to the Star People, to the Sky People coming down, bringing them messages, bringing them what they call kits of knowledge. And for example, Māori knew that the Pleiades had seven stars before telescopes were invented. We can't see seven with the naked eye. So they knew that, were quite categorical about that. That's part of their history. And there is one particular tribe in New Zealand called Waitaha, and they have a very, very vivid and interesting past where they don't see themselves as being, they see themselves as being different and separate from all of the other tribes, and they very closely align to the Star People and the messages that were brought down. The underworld, the afterlife and all that kind of thing is very, very prominent in Maori history, mythology, and culture.
Interesting. Okay. See, up here, I remember my introduction to one of the elders at our local reservation here. I got to speak with him, and I actually asked him a question about Sasquatch. And he goes, no, we don't have a lot of Sasquatch sightings around here. He goes, however, it would be really nice if the Star People would just leave our people alone for once. We're tired of being taken. And that was very, very profound for him to say that to me and a good friend of mine, David Weatherly, who was there in that conversation at that same time. And I just found it stunning. I mean, this is something that is continuing and apparently has been happening for centuries. So I could only assume that it's happening down there as well.
Yes, well, you really need to be in some of the tribal meetings, I guess, to really get into that subject in a deeper manner. But there certainly is sufficient historic material and mythological material that indicates this very distinct and strong contact with people from the sky.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I got a question from Nikki, and we only got about 3 minutes left until the bottom of the hour. It's close enough. I usually only take questions starting in hour 2 from the audience, but because we're so close, I will ask this one. Nikki is asking if you are still being taken.
Yes, I don't use the word taken. I use contact, but yes, contact is certainly still taking place, but over recent decades, as is being reported by a lot of other experiencers, is the manner of contact is different. I think way back in the 70s, we were looking at the whole physical body being taken, but because many people have been experiencing this since early childhood or prior to that even, prior to incarnation, then I think that the manner has changed in that sometimes it is more the soul leaving the body, the spirit leaving the body, or you receiving certain downloads, as they're called, or messages, or knowings, or finding yourself in a particular position or experience where something unfolds and it triggers your memory of conversations and communications and why this is happening and what you need to do about it. So I think the manner in which contact is taking place is shifting now, and that's probably because of the many years of experiencing this contact that we've had, and also because we are beginning to advance in our own understanding of consciousness and telepathy, and perhaps some of the old methods are no longer needed or are not desirable for a variety of reasons. So there may be fewer craft in the sky hurrying around picking up people at night.
Are sightings and contact down at this point for 2020?
Well, because our website's being upgraded, I haven't even put the 2020 page on yet. But what seems to happen, as most researchers worldwide and investigators will agree upon, is that it seems to have a cyclic nature. And there's a researcher in the States called Cheryl Costa who examines data from MUFON and all kinds of UFO groups across the States to look at patterns. And she has come up with what other researchers have been saying for a long time, which is now supported by her data, that there seems to be a 7-year cycle where it will climb to a peak and there'll be a lot of sightings, then they'll drop off and you'll go into a lull, then it'll start to increase again, approaching that peak a second again. And we seem to be in a lull at the moment. There's not a lot happening here or worldwide. There are still reports, but nowhere near as much as we might get as we're approaching that peak of the wave cycle on a graph.
We've got about a minute and a half here before we need to go to break here. Oh, pardon me. We're down to about 14 seconds. I apologize. I read my clock wrong there. I swear I need new glasses. Swear I do. But Suzy, I'm going to get you to hold on. Suzy Hansen is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. She is the head of UFOCUS New Zealand. Their website, UFOCUS NZ.org.nz. If you want to check it on out, highly suggest you do. We're going to get into experiences when we come back with Suzy. It's going to be a lot of fun right here on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned for Hour 2.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
We're taking Sunday nights out of this world on Spaced Out Radio. This is Michael W. Hall, also known as the Paranormal Lawyer. Together, we're going to go on an exciting journey into the unknown. I'm going to bring you some of the best interviews in the paranormal and supernatural to start your new week off on a freaky note. So tune in to Spaced Out Sundays with me, Michael W. Hall, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Hi, This is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
Hey everyone, I'm John Edwards.
And I'm Stacey Edwards. Together we're taking over Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio, where we're going to bring our own experiences of the paranormal and talk to the best people we can find to help bring you answers to your strange tales.
We're here to entertain your need for weekend woo! So tune us in at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, where we can all get a little spooky together.
Spaced Out Saturday nights right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We want to say hello to our terrestrial affiliates, KDUN AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon, KZFX 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California, WQEE 99.1 FM in Newnan, Georgia, UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and KZAX 94.9 FM in Bellingham, Washington. If you're in the Greater Toronto area, we want you to know that we will be starting broadcasting on Saga 9:60 a.m. April 6th. So in just a couple of weeks' time. On the digital side, we're proud to broadcast on Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Yodization. Yodization is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up daily on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight we are talking about UFOs in New Zealand. Researcher for over 40 years, Suzy Hansen, is here with us tonight. Her website, UFOCUSNZ.org.NZ. If you want to check it on out, I highly suggest you do. Suzy, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Dave.
You are very welcome. Very welcome. I want to get into some of the experiences you have had with yourself and how they have coincided with other New Zealanders regarding this, because there are a lot of experiences happening down there at this time. Are they happening quite frequently? And if so, what kind of experiences are happening?
Well, I think that back in the 70s and 80s, we had a lot of your classic abduction kind of reports coming in. particularly around about the time of the Gisborne UFO flap, which was really sightings happening nationwide, because after all, we are only a very small country and we haven't even reached 5 million people yet. So to have the magnitude of reports coming in during that time that we did have, which was hundreds of people reporting it, is quite a high number. So over the years, that has changed quite a bit, in that a lot of the people who reported abduction experiences and unpleasant experiences have kind of acclimatized to the whole subject, I guess, and acclimatized to what was happening to them, and have kind of changed their view on it a little bit. And so some people say, well, it's actually enriched my life. I wouldn't want to be without what happens to me. It has changed me as a person and changed my worldview. But there are still people who feel that they've had traumatizing experiences. I think the bulk of the contact experiences that have happened in New Zealand have been in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And then I think after that, with the advent of so much material on the internet and so many different kinds of presentations that are available on the internet, I think fewer people are talking publicly about it now. It's almost like it's become a little bit more accepted. And unless you've had something really traumatic, you're not so much seeking to talk about it. But the interesting thing is that a lot of the sightings that we've had over recent years have actually involved a contact. And this is a little bit of a departure from what we were getting decades ago, where people were only reporting a light in the sky or seeing a particular shaped craft or whatever, or beams of light coming down from one. And I think back then some of the early researchers were not asking perhaps the right questions, and people were too reluctant to come out with the fact that alongside the sighting of a lights in the sky kind of thing, they actually had something else happening and going on at the same time. So what I'm finding as a researcher in New Zealand is I'm getting now a lot of historic sightings coming, to historic experiences coming. So people in my age group and the older age groups are coming forward and saying, look, back in the 70s and 80s, this happened to me. I didn't want to talk about it then, but it's all freed up a bit now. I feel a bit safer talking about it, so I'd like to document it or talk to you about it. So we're getting a lot more of that. And at the same time, in the sightings arena, we're getting people who feel comfortable now in this day and age to say, we saw this craft, as the hunters did that I described earlier on, and we also saw an entity, and this is what happened. So we're getting more freedom to actually accurately and comfortably come forward and say what really happened without feeling that you've got to leave bits out in case someone thinks that you're a nutter.
The beings that people are claiming to see there, are they greys? Are they the humanoids? Are they mantid beings? Or is it a combination of everything?
I would say that the majority of the contacts that people have reported in New Zealand have been with the greys and with human-like beings. We have had the odd ones to do with mantids and reptilians, but not so much of the latter. It seems to be mainly the greys and human-like entities.
Now, are those experiences positive or negative? Because around North America, it seems to go both ways.
Yeah, it's probably the same here. I think in the early days, I know myself, I went through a period of time where it was quite new and scary. At that time, I hadn't made a link to my memories from childhood, which were happy and pleasant, of these glowing beings, glowing entities that were in my room at night that I would wake up and see. In my 20s, it took a while before it clicked that they were the same ones that I was having contact with in my 20s. So there was a lot of searching and questioning and re-looking at some of those older experiences. And I would say that that most people have reported experiences with the greys, and there's been a mixture, as you said, of positive and negative, and quite a number who've kind of shifted camp from, well, it was negative initially to, well, actually I see it as positive now. And I think part of the reason for that is that we're a very isolated country down here at the bottom of the planet, and whereas America and other countries in the Northern Hemisphere had the advantage of, books by John Mack and Bud Hopkins and others, we didn't have that advantage until well into the 90s. Those books started coming into New Zealand, and up until then there wasn't a lot of anything for us to base anything on. It was all new. It all seemed negative, but then you started reading about what other people had experienced worldwide and realized you weren't alone, and that there was this bigger picture going on that you were somehow part of.
Right on. I appreciate you mentioning that, because, for us here in North America, we're so focused on what is happening here and maybe Rendlesham Forest that we forget that this phenomena is happening around the world. And with just under 5 million people, as you stated, as a population, how many of that population do you feel has actually had some sort of sighting or encounter?
Well, I think that would be too difficult to estimate. But for example, back in the 70s, we were probably only about 3.5 million, and there were hundreds and hundreds of people who came forward with talking about their sightings and these unusual contact experiences, which in those days were quite frightening and unusual. So that's a fairly large representation from such a small population.
That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. All right, Suzanne, I want to ask you, in regards to your own experiences, how often did you notice a pattern of when things were going to happen? And is that out of the usual from what is happening in New Zealand at this time as well?
Well, as I said, a lot of the experiences report that things are different now. It's not so much that you're taken onto a craft in your physical body. There's other ways that the contact takes place. But back in the early days, it was very physical for me, being taken on board a craft physically and having memories of, for example, when I was teaching in a remote area, of being transported through the glass ranch slider window and floated basically across the garden and over a fence where there was a craft waiting, and transported on board it. And then vague memories of coming back and being basically told go to sleep and just falling asleep and then not remembering anything till the next day. But at the same time, there were other kinds of incidents whereby I would get a feeling that something was going to happen. I would feel what I've described in my book as wired up. I'd feel this feeling of anticipation, a slight anxiety, slight excitement, slight knowing that something was about to happen, and then it would happen. And in my book, I describe in a chapter called Into the Mist, coming home from a concert with two friends and driving across this, took about an hour and 3/4 longer to get home in very bad weather. And driving across this plain, a flat plain with just a few rolling hills, and feeling that wired up feeling and looking out the window and thinking to myself, they're here, something's going to happen, but not being able to say it to the two people I was with because they weren't interested in the subject at all. And within minutes, we came upon what we thought was a police car. So in conditions of quite high wind and heavy rain that was blowing virtually horizontally at the car window, we come across up ahead of us at a crossroad, this big mound of mist that seemed to be across the road. And in the mist, we could see flashing red and blue light. And we just thought, oh, there's been an accident or something, there's a police car. And as we approached that mist, this figure came out, which we couldn't really see clearly. And this kind of metallic voice said, there's been a slip, move forward slowly, which we did. And then we all kind of blacked out, and we had this whole missing time thing again. And when we came to, we were 26 kilometres further east on that highway. So something had taken place. And, so there are many different ways in which people report the beginnings and endings of experiences. But I think that largely in New Zealand, the whole, and the world, I think the whole manner of contact is changing as we become more comfortable with what is happening, and as our consciousness and our awareness grows and expands, then that contact is going to change with it. It has to change with it. It can't stay the way it was 30 years ago. It has to change as we, as a civilization, move forward and get closer to perhaps this potential contact with the ETs one day in the future.
Suzy, what's it like to lose time?
Well, back then in the 70s when I was 20, it was both terrifying but also totally intriguing, because as a person who worked in education for 28 years, I consider that I'll be a lifelong learner. And as a young 20-year-old, it's phenomenally traumatizing initially, but then further along the track, even months along the track, this deep curiosity was arising in me, and almost this sense of purpose that I had to find out what happened, what is going on here, and are other people experiencing it? And why won't my flatmate who was with me talk to me? And why did he eventually leave the flat? Because every time I brought the subject up, he became quite traumatized, and his hands would sweat and my hands would sweat. And we would both say that our hearts were pounding, our hands had gone clammy, just even thinking about it. And, the wondering of what on earth could create a situation like that for you, what happened. Whereas he wanted to shut it off, move away, find another flat, not have to see me every day, and this annoying woman asking questions. He wanted to shut it out and get on with his life. I wanted to more embrace it and say, what on earth took place?
I don't blame you. I definitely do not blame you. Suzy, I got a question coming from Mike in one of our chat rooms. He is asking, have you ever made any correlation between UFO events and any, I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, Mohau Man or Bigfoot events in New Zealand?
No, I'm not really aware. I'm not aware. I've been around in this for 45 years now, and I'm not aware of Bigfoot things happening in New Zealand. I have heard the odd whisper over the years of people saying, oh, there was a case here or a case there, but no one's actually approached us at UFOCUS NZ and said, I've seen a Bigfoot or whatever. We just, we haven't had anything reported like that to us.
All right. Nikki has a question for you. She is asking, what race or species of extraterrestrial are you in contact with?
I have been in contact primarily with the Greys, but I have also been in contact with very human-looking entities, very tall, thin, graceful, human-like. And I've also seen some of the mantid species, and I have seen many mixed species of Greys where they're intermixed with other species. I hear a lot of people say, oh, the Greys are bad, and these ones are good, and these ones are dangerous, and the light beings are special. You're on a higher vibration if you see light beings, etc. And to me, this is just this competitive side of human nature, because I have seen all of those species on the same craft working together on a positive agenda for mankind, which I outline in my book. And I have seen the Greys transform in front of us as a group of humans on a craft into light being form. So I think we have to move past this I'm better than you kind of competitiveness and realize that it's entirely possible, and certainly in my mind absolute, that many of these species are working together. I will say, though, that I have not seen any reptilians at all.
Wow, that's nice, because there's a lot of people around here that have had those reptilian encounters. You guys are lucky if they're not happening there or not being reported in. That's for sure. Nikki has a follow-up question for you, as we got about 4 minutes here before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Suzy Hansen is our guest tonight. We're talking UFOs in New Zealand. Nikki is asking, Suzy, were you able to sleep when you were wired up like that before contact?
Well, it would usually happen quite close to the contact, not hours beforehand. For example, I woke up in a remote area that I was living in, was in bed, had been asleep alongside my former husband, and woke up with that wired up feeling, just instantly awake. And within seconds, I heard this humming sound. It's more a rumbling humming sound. Now, in New Zealand, we get a lot of earthquakes, and in this particular area on East Cape, they're very common. And often the rolling quake, what we call the rolling quakes, are preceded by this rumble that sounds like a freight train in the distance. And I just kind of braced myself, thinking there was an earthquake coming. It was probably going to hit the township any minute. But instead, I realized that this sound was airborne, and it was coming across the paddocks towards our house. And within seconds, it was overhead. The house was bathed in light. I found I couldn't move my body except for my head, and recall 3 greys entering the room and putting me upright, floating me in midair in an upright position, and floating me out and through the window, the door, and across the grass and into a craft. So that wired up feeling. Dr. Rudy Schild, who's an astrophysicist in the States who contributed to my book, has suggested that maybe we have an implant at that time that is resonating, and that's one of the ways they find us. Or it's just that your consciousness is connecting with them. They are coming to get you. They are connecting with you and telepathically, etc., and you are picking that up.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is the implants a big deal around New Zealand? Do you get a lot of people wondering if they're implanted or not?
There have been over the years, mainly abductees who had experiences back in the 70s and 80s, many of whom are still having experiences, but like me, they're reporting that they have changed. I had a horrendous car accident when I was 19, and that incident I described earlier on a lonely country road when I was 20 happened only a matter of weeks after I'd had that accident. And in later years, in flashback memories, I recall them putting implants in my body that were designed to counteract some of the very serious injuries that I had sustained in that accident, so that I could carry on with my day-to-day life without the intense chronic pain that I had been suffering and balance problems. So, people have implants that may have all kinds of reasons for being there. The late Dr. Roger Lear spoke at our conference in 2007 and stayed in our home. We had a lot of discussions about the implants and the possible uses of them at that time. Some people still report that they've got implants. I personally think that they're not being used so much now, if at all, but there are still people reporting that they have them.
Wow. All right. Well, we only got about 40 seconds here, and I know there's a couple questions that need to add up, but one of the topics that I want to hit up with you is you've mentioned that the older generations of New Zealanders, seem to have, these experiences that they're not coming out with. But when we come back from the break, I'd really like to get your take on what the younger generation thinks of all this, because I know up here in Canada, and I see it in the U.S. as well, the younger generations around here seem to be very much more open to the idea that there is some sort of extraterrestrial life out there. And I'm curious to find out if it's going to be the same down there as well. We continue on after the break with our guest tonight, Suzy Hansen. She has investigated UFOs for over 40 years. Yes. That's a lot of cases, thousands upon thousands, And we're going to learn more from Suzy right after this on Spaced Out Radio.
Need that weekend supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there. You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Great to have each and every one of you with us on this Friday night, early Saturday morning. Thank you so much for hanging on out with us. I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or you want to catch us live, all you got to do is go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button, thumbs up too if you don't mind. And our website is spacedoutradio.com. We got a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot. Yeah, get your horns up for that, as well as reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. We are talking UFOs tonight down in New Zealand. We got a great guest, Suzy Hansen, 42 years of studying this phenomena. My goodness, that is absolutely incredible. Can you imagine what she has learned about this? We got to tap into that brain coming up here because Suzy leads the UFOCUS New Zealand staff, their website, UFOCUSNZ.org.NZ. Translation for the Commonwealth, NZ. There we go. We got it all straightened out now. Suzy, welcome back.
Thank you very much, Dave. Good to be back.
Before I get to my question, I always like to keep the audience involved here. Let's go to Joe's question on YouTube, who is asking, are there orbs in New Zealand, and are they associated with UFOs?
Well, yeah, there's all kinds of orbs, I think, all around the world. It just depends what type of orb you're talking about. Are you talking about one that is often captured by digital cameras, which might be a reflection of dust or water particles? Or are you talking about very much larger orbs? Because we certainly have had some phenomenal sightings here that involve big, huge, circular or elongated shapes of light, which of course is probably the field around a craft. But for an example here, the sighting I mentioned earlier on this evening about the 3 hunters who'd got up close to a craft and then saw an entity. Initially, they saw this big, round, orange orb in the sky, not a Chinese lantern. We're talking about something the size of a double garage or a small two-bedroom unit. So that was pretty phenomenal, and they tried to explain it away in logical terms, but eventually they saw the actual craft itself when that craft dropped its spherical light around it. We've also had a lady follow down a remote valley road by an orb of light that was actually smaller than her car, very bright white, and was racing along through the paddocks alongside the car just over the fence, and would rise up and over the sheep or deer paddock fences as it was traveling alongside on a parallel course with her, and then eventually zoomed off up into the sky. And then there are the metallic orbs that have been seen by quite a few farmers, actually. We had a farmer's wife who went out in the early hours of the morning to her farm sheds and saw this brilliant light shining down on them. And just momentarily, without thinking, she thought it must be the moon. But then the whole beam of light turned around and focused on her and then moved away back onto the sheds again. And she saw that this light was coming from a small looked like a shiny metallic object about the size of a basketball. And it eventually zoomed off across the paddocks and disappeared. So, yes, we have orbs here. We have all different kinds of orbs. And, of course, people photograph pretty beautiful glowing orbs as well, but just exactly what they are, I'm not sure. And from my own personal experience on craft, I have certainly seen glowing balls of light that are the souls of people who've gone on board the craft in the soul state. So there it is right across the board, and I hope that has answered your listener's question.
Hold on. You have seen souls on craft?
Yes, I have.
Oh, you have to explain that. That sounds way too interesting.
Okay. Well, I cover quite a lot of this in my book. There's a number of chapters that are centered around the soul and the communications with the soul. So I'm going to begin with one. I'll tell you one that I experienced when I was 8 years old. And I have very, very clear memory of this. I was taken on board a craft. I was quite clearly used to doing this since very early childhood. And in fact, it coincides with that same year that I saw the UFO in the sky. And in that year, I had this really quite scary upswing of psychic abilities as a child. And I was asked if I would like to meet another child and by a grey, and I said yes. I was quite comfortable in the situation. I was in my little lemon pajamas, and I was taken along a corridor expecting that there would be a child there, but I waited in a room with a grey, and eventually 2 other greys came into the room, and between them was floating this vibrant blue ball of light. I was a bit disappointed because I was expecting a child. This looked like a big beach ball to me, a glowing beach ball. And they told me in 3 different strands of information. That's quite complex for me to describe. I describe it well, I think, in my book, but I'll try to be brief. So they gave me this message into my mind that this was I was going to meeting this child. This would be my future son. This was the soul of my future son. Then a very large amount of information was given to me, which started coming out many years later in my consciousness and understanding of what I was part of. And that was about how I would assist this soul. I would be the mother of this soul, and this soul had things to do on the planet in his lifetime, as many others would do. And then I was left in the room with this ball of light, and for a little while it did nothing. It just hung in the air, and then this amazing telepathic communication began with it. It was a childlike communication in the sense that I asked it if it wanted to play. And so it chased me around the room, and I chased it around the room. The greys then came back and said, okay, you've made this connection. Now, every time you come on a craft, or many times when you come on a craft, you will meet this blue ball of light again until such time as you are grown up and you are married and you have a child, and this soul will be that child. And the establishment of the communication and the rapport and the relationship must begin now for a variety of reasons. And then at that point, he touched my head, and the memory of the deeper information I'd been given, which at that time I didn't really understand as a child, it was all quite daunting, began to fade. And I was left with this impression that next time I came on board, I could play with this blue ball of light again in a room on our own, and we could communicate. And it was as simple as that in my child's mind at that point. So a year later, I was introduced to more balls of light that were souls, and I was told that these souls, some of them had already incarnated and others had not incarnated yet, but they would all be people in my life who would assist me in some way. And in my lifetime, I believe I have met two of those people, those souls who in my life who have significantly helped me in this field, one being Dr. Rudy Schild, who contributed to my book and examined all of my experiences with a scientific eye. And also my late colleague, Graham Opie, who was an air traffic controller, who was my staunch and solid right-hand man in UFOCUS NZ for 20 years. So, that's the story of the blue ball of light, which is a chapter in my book called Meeting the Soul of My Future Son.
Wow, that is powerful. That is very, very powerful. Does your son have any recall?
He has some recall. I don't generally talk about him in
That's fine.
Interviews and that, because he has his own private life and I need to respect that. He has some minimal recall, but he has a very deep understanding of the subject, despite the fact that he's not actively in it at this point in time. He's more interested in his career and family life.
Well, good. We can leave it at that. We could totally leave it at that. I'm very okay with that. Suzy, I got more questions coming from the audience in the Space Travelers Club on our website. April is asking, in regards to a comment you made earlier about the grays, she is asking, grays can actually change into light form?
Yes, and they told the group of humans that I was with that this was a form they transformed into when working in other dimensions. And we were allowed to see it. We came on board the craft. We came through an archway into a corridor, and they were there to greet us, and they transformed in this way. I also wrote a chapter in my book called A Glimpse of Cosmic Culture, where a small group of 8 of us were taken into a room, and we saw them transforming, disintegrating their body, changing their structure, and reforming into other kinds of structures or forms. And we were encouraged to participate, to let ourselves go. They were trying to see how far we could go, whether we could actually emulate them in any way. We couldn't, but it was an extremely powerful and emotional experience. And when I was first submitting my chapters to Dr. Rudy Schild to look at and assess, I sent him the ones first that I thought he wouldn't balk at too much, that wouldn't be too much of a stretch for him. And at one point he said to me, yes, okay, now send me 3 chapters that you think are going to completely throw me. And I said, okay. So I sent him 3 chapters, and this was one of them, and he came back to me immediately and said, in terms of astrophysics and physics, what you're discussing in this chapter is what I understand. I absolutely understand what you're talking about in terms of consciousness here. So that was a real relief to me that I had this, astrophysicist saying to me, I understand this, this makes sense, and I can actually give you an equation for this situation or for this thing that you're describing. So that was very confirming for me and really helped me feel more confident about sharing my experiences.
All right. Shanna on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio is asking, is it common among abductees to have so many experiences during their lifetime? Once you're picked, then you're a constant target, or are your stories unique?
No, my stories are by no means unique. What I think is at play is that we're all here for a different reason. I believe we're all here, this is just my opinion, at this time to assist what is happening on the planet and this big upheaval and growth of consciousness and spirituality, which must happen if we are ever to meet these cosmic beings face to face as a civilization. We have to be a little bit more advanced in our spirituality and certainly in the way that we treat our planet and our understanding of physics. So I think that everyone involved in the programs that I describe in my book, and that's, experiencers, abductees, contactees, I think we've all got a different thing to do. We're all here for the same sort of reason, but we also have our personal growth as a soul and personal experiences to have as well. And depending on what part of the program we are in and what our life task involves in assisting humanity in some way, we may have more contact with them, we may have more things to do, or we may have just a few very specific things to do that assist in some way.
All right, let's get to Joe's question. Joe is from UPRN. He is asking, Susan, the grays you had contact with, what size were they and what color gray were they? Or were they gray? Were they tan? Were they blue? What color were they?
Well, I've seen small and tall greys, and I hear a lot of people say these small greys are some kind of robotic entity. Well, perhaps some of them are that some people have seen. I have actually never found that to be the case. I have found that they are able to attach themselves or immerse their consciousness in their technology, which may give them the appearance of being robotic or controlled in some way. But right from childhood, my only memories are of them being not robotic. So that sort of goes against the grain of what some people say. The taller greys, well, I hear people say they are in charge, and that's also not what I have found. Sometimes the shorter greys are in charge. They may be in charge of implementing activities on a craft with a group of humans, and the taller greys may be assisting with that. Some of the things that I have experienced and that I recall are a little different to what some people claim is happening out there. And, I don't make any excuses for that. That's just my experience and that's their experience. And it's all part of the picture, I'm sure.
All right. Sparky is asking, Susan, when you were floating, could you possibly see the stones of the pyramids or see if they have been put in place using the same technology that they used to float you to where they wanted to put you?
Well, that's entirely a possibility, but I have never been exposed to any information on that. People quite often ask me questions that might solve some of the puzzles of humanity. I have had a lot of experience with being shown the damage done by atomic warfare, but no, I've never been shown any of those secrets in terms of the pyramids, etc. However, from early childhood on the craft, I was amongst groups of children, both ET and human, who were learning or being taught by following the ET children to levitate objects and to change the form of objects. I can't do that here in my day-to-day life because the atmosphere or the environment on board a craft is entirely different to what it is here. This is quite dense, if I can put it that way. On a craft, the first thing you do when you arrive is you are asked to raise your vibes or your frequency, and that's just something you have been taught to do, and it taps into what I call the big brain on the craft, or the organic consciousness of the craft that the hive mind of the greys and some of these other species seem to be attached to at all times. So without that attachment and that attachment to some of their technology, it's impossible to do things here. But in the speech that I gave at the UFO Congress in 2018, I talked about a lot of the alien technology I'd seen on board craft, including a lot of medical technology. And the little missing piece of the puzzle that we are struggling with at the moment is how to insert that consciousness into the technology that they are able to do, that links us to it. And we're not talking about AI, we're talking about a consciousness link that enables us to operate their technology.
Interesting. Have you flown a craft?
Yes, I have.
What's that like?
I flew a scout craft. Grant Cameron interviewed me on this at length, as well as other people. It's, as I described before, it's the only way I can describe it is that you immerse yourself in the consciousness of the craft and the whole computer system. You log on, if I can put it that way, in terminology that we can understand, by touching this kind of rubbery pad on the console, and that attaches your frequency, if I can put it that way, to the consciousness field within the craft that the craft operates on, that the computer system operates on, and that the ETs can access in and out at will, and that enables you to do the same. I was shown two ways to fly the craft, the scout craft. The first one was manually with a little lever that popped up out of the console top. And I thought that I would probably be best at that because I've flown a glider, I drive a car. I thought that that would be okay. I could move that lever and maneuver the craft accordingly under their instruction. But I found that when I was assisted to do it using straight consciousness attached to the organic consciousness of the craft, it was much easier and quicker and instantaneous because it cut out the time spent of the brain instructing the muscles or the tendons or whatever. It was absolutely instantaneous, and you could feel the movement, you could feel the power, you could feel the movement and activity of the craft in a way that you didn't with that secondary sense of using the lever in a manual way.
Where were you able to go? Where were you able to take the ship?
Well, they took me, first of all. I was taken to a craft that was a grey craft. It was a huge craft with a big hangar area, and it was actually a group of human-like beings that took me in their small scout craft. They flew it, and we went from what I would say was the southern hemisphere in darkness. In no time at all, we were in what I believe would have been the northern hemisphere in an environment you would be familiar with in Canada, with whole hillsides of blazing autumn trees such as we don't see in New Zealand. And I remember that absolutely distinctly, seeing how magnificent it looked. And then the craft hovered, was in a hovering position while they instructed me. The male instructed me on the two different ways, and then all I really did was move the craft forward, move it to the side, move it back, just small movements so they could examine how well I could attach to that technology, because many of the tests that I've done on board craft with other groups of humans have been to do with not the outcome of the test is that you show how you can use that technology, and you show how you can use what they've taught you to do with consciousness to utilize the technology, rather than the solution to the little puzzle that they might have given you. For example, to make myself clear, on one occasion they gave me some information in different forms, 3D form, etc., and my test was to find a way through a solar system without disturbing the electromagnetic fields of the three planets there. So I managed to do that, but they were actually more interested in the methods that I used using their technology to reach that solution rather than the solution itself.
Can anybody fly these craft, as we only got about 20 seconds left?
I think you would have to have been in contact with these entities for a long time and have learnt a lot off them in terms of how to relate to consciousness before you could necessarily do that.
Well, that makes sense. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this, your questions as well from the chat rooms. I know there's a pile of them in there, a plethora of questions, but we will try our best to get to them. We only have Suzy Hansen for another 30 minutes on Spaced Out Radio. It's ET Talk, UFO Talk all night long. Suzy Hansen, 42 years investigating this phenomena, and the stories are real, and the stories are phenomenal. Stay tuned. More Spaced Out Radio coming up after this.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
We're taking Sunday nights out of this world on Spaced Out Radio. This is Michael W. Hall, also known as the Paranormal Lawyer. Together, we're going to go on an exciting journey into the unknown. I'm going to bring you some of the best interviews in the paranormal and supernatural to start your new week off on a freaky note. So tune in to Spaced Out Sundays with me, Michael W. Hall, only on spacedoutradio.com.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the story you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Hey everyone, I'm John Edwards.
And I'm Stacey Edwards. Together we're taking over Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio, where we're going to bring our own experiences of the paranormal and talk to the best people we can find to help bring you answers to your strange tales.
We're here to entertain your need for weekend woo! So tune us in at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, where we can all get a little spooky together.
Spaced Out Saturday nights right here at spacedoutradio.com.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
We're underway in the third and final hour tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We want to say hello to everyone listening in on UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans, WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, KDUN AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon, KZAX 94.9 FM in Bellingham, Washington, and down in Ridgecrest, California, where Chuck is enjoying a nice caramel apple martini, KZFX 93.7 FM. On the digital side, we're proud to broadcast on Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor and hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Yodization. Yodization is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We got a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. I was going to say for the final time tonight, however, this conversation with our guest tonight Suzy Hansen, has been so incredibly interesting. We're going to go the full distance with her tonight to wrap up our week. Well, why not? When you start getting stories and experiences like she has, we got to keep going. We just have to. She's agreed to do it. So thank you so much for that, Suzy.
You're welcome, Dave. And
I want to give a shout out. I want to give a shout out to your website, too. For UFOCUS New Zealand, the website is ufocusnz.org.nz. If you want to check it on out, we would greatly appreciate that as well. So thank you so much. Now, Suzy, right before the break, you got into some incredible stories about your own experiences on craft. Have you seen other people, children, teenagers, being taught this same thing? Because from what I'm hearing from a lot of experiencers who have seen craft being flown, and I've even met a 12-year-old girl who has flown a craft. She lives in my town here. Are you seeing more children being activated with the consciousness aspect to flying craft?
Not here in New Zealand, no, but I am in touch with a number of children worldwide who do talk about these things. But yeah, not so much in New Zealand. People reporting that kind of thing tend to be more in my age group.
Really?
But I do think that well, I describe in my book, The Dual Soul Connection, the different groups that are coming forward and coming through since early part of last century. So we've had this long, slow process of the introduction of souls coming down into the planet with various tasks in mind and part of various programs that I outline. So, we've got children coming through now who have certain talents and abilities, and but in what I describe in my book, the ones who really are going to be the game changers on the planet are the ones who, at this point in time, don't have memory of their experiences. I think what people commonly call the star kids or the crystal kids or whatever, they've come into this planet to show us what we're capable of. They're quite bold in what they do. They have psychic abilities, if you want to put it that way, psi abilities. But what I refer to as the third wave of souls coming through are the ones who are children of people like me, who've had lifelong experiences, and these children now in their young adulthood are the same. So they are the ones who are working through different careers and developing their persona, developing their character, and eventually they will have conscious memory of their experiences and will need the help of my age group, perhaps, people who've gone before them, to assist them to assimilate that. Some will assimilate it quickly and easily, others won't. But we're talking a little further down the track from where we are now. And a lot of these young people now in their ranging from their 20s through to their late 30s are in positions of responsibility and power in a positive sense, and they will use that power to make the necessary changes in civilization that we so drastically need at this time politically, in the medical field, in the education field, in the transport field, etc. And they will come to the fore and be able to implement that, and maybe in the future perhaps be instrumental in more open contact taking place, or in training other people in these technologies and in the communication with the entities.
All right. Cable guy Matt takes care of all my internet around the studio here. He is asking, what is some of the advanced technology you have witnessed during your contact?
Okay, I'll give you one example. You can look on my YouTube channel, Suzanne Hansen channel. I've got speeches there where I talk about the technology. I'll give you an example of some medical technology. Back in the 70s, I was shown some technology. It was actually used on me. It was an object that an entity was holding, and he ran it over my body. As he ran it over my body, I felt like a little bit of an electric tingle. and he told me that this piece of technology could see into my body, and that it was collecting data as he ran it over my body, and it was sending it to a computer, and that they would store that for future use. He said that he could see, using this technology, he could see into the body, and he could change the specs of this technology to see the bones or the organs or the vascular system or whatever. Now, some years later, I'd been quite ill, and I was taken on board the craft, and I was got to lie on a table, and above me there was a circle in the ceiling, and from that circle came down this beam of energy, is what I would call it, because I don't know what else to call it. It was like a scanning technology. Now, similar to our X-ray machines, they can expand the area of light. When you go to the hospital to have an X-ray, they can expand it a small amount. But this could expand to encompass the whole body or just a minute part of the body. They could see into the body with this same technology, but it wasn't in a handheld form. It was in a much bigger form. So he told me, if you want to have a look, sit up on your elbows and have a look. And I did, and I had one of my sons with me at the time who was highly amused that he could see into Mum's abdomen. So when I looked in, I could see my skeleton. He touched a screen, I could see my organs. He touched a screen, I could see the vascular system. So this was way back in the 70s and 80s. Now, I have spoken about this a number of times over the years, and it always felt, when I was talking about it decades ago, like I was describing something that the audience just didn't believe. It was like silly magic, or it was like sci-fi, but that's what I saw, and all I could do was describe what I'd seen. When I spoke in Toronto several years ago at the Experiencer session, a man got up called Steve Boucher, and some of your listeners may be familiar with Steve, and he began describing some medical technology where when he was taken on board a craft, a grey entity held this handheld thing over his arm, and he could see his bones inside his arm. So I grabbed hold of Steve afterwards and interviewed him and talked to him, and he provided me with documentation from an old UFO magazine from Canada years ago, where he'd actually talked about this and drawn a picture of it. And so we were able to swap notes and found that what we were describing with the lights underneath it and the way it was held, etc., was identical. And this was very encouraging and gratifying for both of us. So I began researching this when I was about to do a speech for the UFO Congress in 2018, and I found that we now have developed what are called vein viewers, which is a handheld object which bounces infrared light off the hemoglobin in your blood, therefore giving the impression that you can see into the body and you can see the vascular system, so that lures and injections and tracers can be put into the vein successfully, especially in people where it's difficult to find the vein. It assists the medical staff to do that. After my speech at the Congress, I was approached by a medical professional who has given me his entire PowerPoint to use in subsequent speeches, and he has showed me our human version of what the ETs had decades ago, which is a multi-million-dollar piece of engineering. There's only 5 of them in the States at the moment. And it basically can see into the body, but in a very minimal way compared to the ET technology. So we are moving towards this technology. And at the same time, many medical schools now use an anatomage table where they're able to bring up images of cadavers where you can see the vascular system, you can see the skeletal system, etc. So what we're producing now at great expense is like a kindergarten version of what the ETs have got. And what I would like to know is, are we following the same course, same track in physics as the ETs have already followed? is it a natural progression that over time we will follow along that path and eventually produce technology that can actually see into the body, therefore for avoiding a lot of invasive operations and techniques that we might use in medicine today. And obviously, we have not as yet got the ability that the ET technology has of being able to go magnify it right down to a cellular level, to start off with looking at an area of your abdomen and take it right down into an organ and then right down into a cell, etc. That's the ability that they have. It's utterly phenomenal. So really, it's been very good to hear this corroborative evidence, A, from Steve Busher as an experiencer, and B, from medical professionals who say, well, we're trying to develop that, but we don't have the consciousness aspect of it where it can be instructed to do things in a certain way simply with the mind, and we don't have the advancement of the particular technology that they have. So when I hear all of this talk about the technology that some of these groups like Academy to the Stars, etc., claim to have, I wonder how much of this technology that we're now producing that emulates what I saw decades ago, wonder how much of that is downloaded, how much of it is just a natural progression of physics, or how much of it has been shared by ET civilizations. I don't know. But all I know is that after my speech that night, I was threatened by two guys and intimidated in a hallway at the conference. I was sprayed with something the next day which caused me to nearly die when I returned to New Zealand. I was sprayed with a cocktail of lung bacteria, and I ended up with lung, blood, and skin bacterial infections and was hospitalized. So why would someone want to silence an experiencer talking about alien technology? Is there some agenda at play whereby certain parties or groups only want certain information put out there that pertains to their technology they're developing, and they don't want someone talking about the ET version? I don't know. I'm still trying to make sense of all of that, Dave.
Have you been attacked ever since? And number two question to that, have you ever been healed by the ETs because of that?
I have received healing from the ETs over the years. As I said before, I had a rather horrific car accident with injuries. And although they told me that they could not completely heal me because that would go against certain laws, universal laws, but it would also go against what I as a soul was seeking to experience in this life, they did minimize the effect of it so that I could keep functioning as a human being and work as a young teacher and have a family, etc. Although I am a chronic pain sufferer, I have been able to have a life and do those things. So there has been healing to a certain extent. I've also experienced giving healing on the craft, both in a human form, but also walking out of my body as a grey and doing healing as a grey. And many experiencers describe the same thing. So, yes, there has been healing, and there's also been me giving healing.
Very interesting. Let's get to Corey's question. He is asking, or making a comment, I have seen red lights about 1 or so inches in diameter moving in my bedroom overnight. I woke up to them, even tried to catch them. Do you have any information on what these may be?
Well, I haven't heard of red lights, although I have seen the ETs appear in my room in a group of 3 surrounded by red light. But I would say that is either that could be an ET in a soul form, in a ball of light form, as I have seen on the craft. It could also be a spirit form. I'm a medium, have been from early childhood. I don't generally use that word because it has certain connotations in today's world, but I know that souls can be seen as balls of light. I've seen it myself. So those are 2 possibilities. I'd need to talk to the person more in depth, and they're welcome to contact me through my website.
All right. let's continue on here because, we continue to just get a bunch of people asking questions about your experiences right now, and they've requested so much so that we continue on through the next half hour, which we are going to do with you tonight. And this has just been awesome, just absolutely awesome so far. And my question to you, in regards to what you have seen and what you have had downloaded, what you have experienced, how has this changed your point of view of what we're actually doing to the planet? Have they given any ideas? Because a lot of people always seem to ask on this show, why haven't the ETs stepped in with pollution or with healing devices to cure diseases like cancer or anything along those lines? We get a lot of those types of questions around here, and it's just not that simple, is it?
No, it is not that simple. And now, I don't want to sound like I'm selling my book, but if people want an in-depth answers to that question and others, my book is The Dual Soul Connection, The Alien Agenda for Human Advancement. There's a lot of information in there about the soul, and particularly about what this person has asked about, and that is what's happening at this time. So I'll be a little brief here, but the ETs have talked a lot about what's happening on the planet. For example, on one occasion, they showed me a hologram of the Earth at the time that the atomic explosions happened in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and they showed that shockwave going right out through our solar system and far beyond. And as it went out, it grew wider and wider and became more unstable. So the explanation for that was everything you do on your planet, you affect other species and civilizations out there. And that's what we have to come to understand in cleaning up our planet and cleaning up the way we do things and the way we operate, and our energy systems, etc., our medical systems, clean up our wars, learn to live together on this beautiful planet, then we are actually protecting those other species out there. They don't want to have open contact with us while we are warlike and while we are creating such dramatic effects going out into space. And they've talked about how thousands of aircraft flying through our atmosphere every day affects the natural flows around our planet. And once again, many of the things I've written about in my book that date way back in decades are now being proved to be correct, what the ETs have said. And we now have high-speed photography that can show the shock waves from explosions, that can show how it damages, and not only physically but emotionally, and our nervous system. The core of our being is our nervous system. So we are also learning that supersonic aircraft are damaging to us, and we actually have to alter that technology so that it can come in to areas of high population without harming us. So a lot of these things that I was told decades ago with other humans are now being corroborated. In terms of what's happening on the planet at the moment, do I think they're going to save us? No, I'm a teacher. I know that if you want a child to learn, they learn best by their mistakes. They learn by doing it. They learn by hitting rock bottom and having to solve the problem, having to problem solve. If you spoon feed a child information, they can reply back to you in rote form, but you put them in a situation where that information needs to be used under stressful or traumatic circumstances, and they go numb because it's not instilled in their mind clearly. It's only a solution that's offered and not the way to that solution. So are they going to save us? No, we have to do that. We've made the mess. We have to clean it up, and they are helping us in different ways. They're helping us through the programs that I talk about in my book, that they run educating humans from birth, basically, to perform certain tasks at certain times on the planet. And they described our progress as like a rubber band. Sometimes if they want to describe something in your terminology, they'll reach into your mind, they'll grab out a little phrase or saying that you use that you understand, and they'll couch it in those terms. So they said, take a rubber band, you can stretch it. One day your spirituality and your evolution may be really good and you've expanded that rubber band right out. And on the next day, a war may erupt somewhere or something bad happens on a planet and it's your humanity's fault, and it snaps back to a shorter rubber band again. So this process of evolution and finding ourselves and finding our solutions is not a gradual uphill, progress. It is a 10 steps forward, 5 steps back kind of thing, moving forward, doing well one day and shocking the next. So we've got
Suzy,
a lot.
I'm gonna get you to hold on right there, and I want you to hold that thought because we're gonna step out at the bottom of the hour. Suzy Hansen's gonna go the distance with us tonight on Spaced Out Radio, all the way from New Zealand, where we're talking UFOs, consciousness, experiences, and what she's learned over 42 years of research on Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Need that weekend supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Hey Spaced Out Radio fans, it's John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from dance to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckard, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at mightymoosebeard.com today.
We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate that. I want to remind all of you that if you want to check out our free archives or watch the show live, you go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, give us a thumbs up, and hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Oh, the captain is mad tonight because I am skipping her news. I'm sorry, Captain, but I love you anyways. And, of course, you can rock out to Bumblefoot as well. For the final time tonight, we introduce our guest, Suzy Hansen. What an incredible tale she has and experiences in her life with extraterrestrial contact. She is from New Zealand. Our topic all night, UFOs over in New Zealand. Her website, UFOCUSNZ.org.nz as well. And you can check it out, file a report if you're in New Zealand. Suzy, welcome back.
Thank you, Dave. I'd also like to mention that I've got a second website called www.communicatorlink, all one word, .com, and that's where I take inquiries from people who've had contact experiences, whereas the other one is the sightings arena.
All right. I appreciate that. We haven't got the name of your book yet. You haven't thrown that out yet. We might as well get there.
You might have missed it. It's The Dual Soul Connection, the Alien Agenda for Human Advancement.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that. I want to ask you about the younger generations that are coming up here, because I've noticed, like, I have a 21-year-old daughter. I have a 17-year-old daughter. and I'm in trouble because both are absolutely beautiful. And I'm one of those dads that believes in violence against boys who try to hit on my daughters. That's just the way I am. And anyways, long story short, I notice with their generation firsthand, they are very open to these subjects, very open to the idea that there are extraterrestrials out there, there are ghosts out there, there's Bigfoot. They don't have that chronic idealism that many of the older generations have, where this stuff isn't real, it's all made up, it's all science fiction, it's all Hollywood, it's all fictional books and characters. They're very open-minded with it. Are you noticing that as well in New Zealand with the younger generations coming up?
Yes, but, I think there's some fairly logical and practical, down-to-earth reasons for that. I know there are some researchers out there trying to make something out of that situation, but I do think we have to accept that these kids are growing up in a totally different environment to us. In New Zealand, we didn't have computers only into the 90s. Only certain institutes like hospitals had a very ancient computer in about 1995, 96. I didn't use a computer to do a Word document until about almost 2000. So, we're a bit behind the times here, but these kids are growing up in the age of technology that we didn't grow up in. And when I'd been overseas speaking, on one occasion I was flying home and I had a 12-month-old sitting on his mum's knee next to me at the front of the cabin, and he had an iPad and she was holding it and he was pressing all the buttons, doing everything he needed to do. And now, of course, I'm watching my own grandson, who's 18 months old, doing that. So I think we have to realize that kids view things very differently today. And if we look at the computer games they play and the video games and the arcade games they play, where the responses needed are very quick, very fast, this has got to have affected their brain. As a teacher, I understand that this is stimulating the brain in a way that's different from how I grew up with textbooks and a teacher standing up the front of the classroom. So there is this progression, this new way of thinking, and sooner or later our somewhat archaic education systems are going to have to catch up with that and cater for that, or kids are going to be very bored with what school dishes up for them. And I know that progress is happening worldwide now, and it has to happen because these kids are going to face different problems, different environmental and ecological problems that we had to face in our time, and they are going to be the analysts and the problem solvers of the future, and therefore the education system and the training that they're getting basically through today's technology is what is needed to take them into the future and to be able to meet halfway with these cosmic neighbours that we have, who are very far in advance of us. So we have a lot of stepping up and catching up to do to be able to meet them halfway.
Do you believe that they are more open? Do you believe these younger generations, the kids today, even as young as your grandson, are more, star children, star beings themselves? Or do you believe that because we haven't polluted their minds as much and we've allowed them more to have open minds, that they have the ability to, resonate with the potential contact side of everything?
Yes, I think that they're growing up with the subject being more open and probably hearing their parents and other people talk about it. They see it on television. It's very much a part of many of the computer games that they play, many of the movies they watch. So they're being softly familiarized with this, and it's becoming part of their reality in a way that it wasn't for us. And sometimes we used to feel quite embarrassed about talking about these things when I was a kid or a teenager because it was frowned upon, but it's much more open. Yes, some of those kids worldwide will be the result of the programs I talk about in my book and genetic alteration and training over a lifetime, and they will move on along the track in a much more advanced way than my generation who's had contact. And I remember on one occasion, Gray saying to me in relation to my son, he is our child. And I quite indignantly said, no, actually, he's my child. And he looked at me slightly confused and said, but you are our child too. And so that made me realize that this is a progression, this is a familial thing, this is a going down the line of certain families and educating them. And I was told that my son would have a much vaster education on board craft than I would, and that the position of parent and child would almost reverse one day when he was older. So, yes, there are probably thousands, if not millions, of children out there today who have had experiences on board craft, may remember it, may not remember it yet. And then there will be a lot of other souls who are here for different reasons, for personal task reasons, who will be resonating with the way we are evolving, resonating with the openness that's happening, resonating with the changes in consciousness, and moving with that.
Do you believe children are destined for this now, rather than the older generations?
The older generations who've been on board craft and part of these programs were destined for it too. They just had a different role. And I talk about these three waves of souls incarnating, and please don't mistake me for what Dolores Cannon says about it. I was talking about this several years before Dolores Cannon was given a copy of my speech DVD about it. So I have this quite in-depth take on this, and I think that there are different groups of humans who've incarnated for various reasons to fulfill certain roles. And in relation to what you were saying to me before, Dave, when we were off air, I think about how you opened up in 2014. I constantly get people writing to me and talking to me about how they feel there is something they've got to do at this time. They don't know what it is. They want to contribute to something. They feel like there's something they're meant to do before they die. And a lot of these people are in the older age group, and they're just kind of waking up and being affected by the frequency that's around them, and they're wanting to talk about what they've experienced, and they're wanting to contribute, but they don't know how. So I have got some speeches on my YouTube channel where I address this waking the sleepers and what am I going to do with my life and what am I meant to do. And people can become quite panicky about it. They feel like time is slipping away and I haven't done anything yet. And often when you talk to them, you find that actually they have been doing exactly what they're probably meant to be doing. And that is contributing in some way to the disclosure of knowledge and to the uncovering of secrets and to the bringing together of people and furthering of knowledge. And that's what we are here for, is to move along that track. And as we move along that track, we're more likely to start looking at our environment and wanting to improve it. And we're more likely to look around and think, well, who else is out there that we can communicate with?
Yes, but as Samantha Mowat said last night on this show, many of us may have to give up bacon. I'm not ready to do that, Suzy. I am so not ready to do that. I will do a lot of things to enhance my ET contact, but giving up bacon, that's where I draw the line.
Yes, well, I know people who talk about ethical farming, humane farming. We know now that plants cry and they call out and they react when they're cut or picked and harvested. So, the more we learn about consciousness, the more we understand that everything around us is consciousness and that we have to find ways to do things kindly, humanely, graciously, if I can put it that way, using some old-fashioned words, instead of the way many of us are doing it now.
Bacon. That's all I'm going to say. It's bacon.
Oh, Dave. Oh, Dave.
You won't win me over on that one. You just won't. I'm stubborn that way. Very, very stubborn. Suzy, getting back to the whole idea, because we only have about 8 minutes left with you tonight, and this show has flown on by. Getting with everything that you have experienced consciously and throughout your own contact and everything, we never expect this in life. We never expect things to go the way that they have planned or what we believe we have signed up for, or however you want to believe it. Do you look at the way that your life has gone with this ET contact as something of, that you're proud that it's happened, or is it something that has, I don't want to say disappointed you, but maybe you wish you could have went on a different path?
Well, I wouldn't change it for anything, but having said that, there have been times in my life where I've wanted to run screaming in the opposite direction because it's so hard. I think of some of the intimidation and surveillance I have been subjected to here in New Zealand, especially around the time of the MOD files coming out, etc. At certain times when I've spoken in conferences overseas and I've been intimidated and nearly died a couple of times. And there's been times when I've felt that I've got a weight on my shoulders that is a big task I have to complete. But just when I'm feeling like packing my rucksack and running, screaming in the opposite direction, some help comes riding in on a white charger, and I'm up and running again. So, these are the cogs of the wheel turning. These are the people who've got an important little task to do, who come in and save the day and help me along the way, and I help them along the way. So, I met my husband through unusual circumstances that I write about in my book, my second husband, simply because I changed my name and I happened to change my surname to what was his surname. And then I met him because his mail kept turning up in my mailbox. And he is an artist, and he does all my pictures, and he supports me fully. He does all of the images for my speeches, etc. So, what better help and assistance could I have got to complete what is my individual task? So I think we have to be patient with our course through life. We have to be not trying to make it happen, but going with the flow, but keeping that eye out for opportunities and keeping the eye out for the little subtle messages and synchronicities that assist us along the way.
I should have asked you this earlier, but when you were, lack of a better term, attacked for your speech, has that been something that had happened before? Had you had concerns about your own safety in speaking out about this?
Yes, I had an incident in Australia back in the early 2000s where I had anonymous phone calls and I had some intimidation happen after my speech, and I was staying with a friend in Sydney, went out shopping and was intimidated in a shopping centre, so clearly I was being followed. But when I spoke at the old UFO conference way back in 1999, I was intimidated then, and I write a chapter about that in my book and some of the other intimidatory techniques that have been used on me. I know I'm not the only experiencer who's experienced this. I know Sherry Wilde talks about the same thing, Patty Greer, and there's a whole string of other people who've been subjected to this. So it kind of makes a mockery of this whole disclosure thing when people who've actually been on the craft and are brave enough to talk about it are being intimidated into silence or having their lives threatened. I'd like to know who is doing this. What are they trying to stop us from conveying to the public? Because I'm quite open about my experiences, but it's taken me a long time to reach that point. And, I don't intend to give it up anytime soon. And if I go doing my work, then I'll be very happy about that.
Well, that's good. That's good, because I think it's something that we need to be able to continue doing and getting that message out. Do you fear for your safety now? Do you have Men in Black experiences, black helicopters, all of these things that we hear of?
Yes, I've had all of the above. And yeah, sometimes it can be a little bit daunting, but by the same token, I had an ET hybrid experience with my husband, and I after the 1999 Congress, and which is documented in my book, and he turned to me, and when I was at my lowest point, having been intimidated and told to go home and don't speak about this again, you've got a family, haven't you? We could harm your family, all of this kind of thing. This entity turned to me in a secluded place and said, they always look after their own, and then was gone. So that gave me the courage to come home, talk to my family, and make the decision to keep on with my work. And that's what I will do until such time as I feel nobody wants to hear anything about it anymore. Then I'll quite happily retire and do my garden and be good to my grandchildren.
Well, why not? That's pretty cool too. That's pretty cool too. Yeah. So I mean, you can't really blame it on that. That's for sure. You really can't. We only have about 2 minutes left with you tonight, and I want to say a big thank you for you sharing all of this incredible information with us tonight. I mean, that's just absolutely phenomenal what you have gone through, and the fact that you don't regret anything, that you're happy that you've had this epic path in life. You know, a lot of experiencers would love to change that, but you don't. You've embraced it, and I think that really needs to be commended on your part as well.
Thank you, Dave. I just keep focusing on the bigger picture all the time, because I think that is the important factor. If we get too bogged down in our own situation and forget about the bigger picture, then it's not service to others.
Definitely not. Definitely not. Are you speaking anywhere this year where people can find more information about you and listen to you speak again?
Well, I'm speaking in New Zealand, but I'm also booked to hopefully going to the States later in the year, and it'll just depend what happens with the shutdown and the coronavirus. But I am booked to speak at MUFON Phoenix in July, so we'll see if that eventuates and how the world is by then.
Well, that'll be fun. Hopefully it's not canceled. Hopefully the coronavirus can be cleared up as quickly as possible, so that way you can get to speak in Phoenix. I can get the hockey season finished. We can get football season and baseball season going here. We can get the Olympics going in Japan, because I'm a giant fan of the Olympic Games. And you know, hopefully everything just continues to do well. I mean, you make sure that you be safe there, you know, because we're all, yes. And wash your hands. Wash your hands. There's my lecture for the day. There is my lecture for the day. Wash your hands.
I'm listening.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you to your audience as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We greatly appreciate it. That is Susan Hansen, everybody. Suzanne Hansen. Suzy Hansen. She prefers. You know, you got to check out the website, UFOCUS, so UFOCUS NZ for New Zealand.org.nz. I highly suggest you check that on out as well. And you know what? I also want to remind you, we're going to have the YouTube after party live on YouTube, continuing right after this show, when we say goodnight to our radio fans all across North America and the world. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thought. You're fantastic.